Taylor is a part of the Oregon Remembrance Project.
And we're here with Renee Browse.
And we are with Eddie Carrillo. So we are here with Michael Austin. Michael Austin is with Just Compassion. This morning with our special guest, Aaron Earlywine. We are talking this morning about immigration.
You know, I think to do this work, you have to have what I call unrelenting hope. And for me, part of that unrelenting hope is this belief that no matter where you go, you can find enough people who are willing to choose justice if given the opportunity.
And this is we end up dehumanizing people.
There is no greater determination of the value of life than the lives we are willing to take.
She said, I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be looked down upon because of who you are. And so I am here to protect you and to help give you support to know that you are not hated by everyone.
Well, it would be very irresponsible of me to not start out this a little bit differently this morning because of what happened yesterday in Minneapolis. And so I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge what happened, that somebody was murdered on the street. And this is the second time this has happened, just in this series of events. So we want to just take a moment. I want to read something for us because I think that we are at a moment in our history that we definitely need to be proactive, active, and having real conversations with people that I guess drive or motivate us and them to a greater understanding of Christ's vision for life and humanity, but also just goodness and how to be good. Somebody responded to me this week that most Americans know the difference between good and bad, and that immigrants don't know the difference between good and bad. And I was shocked by that because I do believe that many immigrants probably know the difference between good and bad more than I know the difference between good and bad. And so just that sentiment or just that value system that people have is driving violence, is driving hate, is driving killing. And so Christ does not speak or motivate or really empower us towards violence of any kind. And we need to really speak up against certain things. I think it's an important time in history to have voice and use our voices. This is something that was written a long time ago that I want to read for us today. And it's very powerful. And I'm just going to let it sit where it sits, and then a moment of silence, and then we'll move into our talk. It goes like this. Christianity stands or falls with its revolutionary protest against violence, arbitrariness, and pride of power, and with its plea for the weak. Christians are doing too little to make these points clear rather than too much. Christendom adjusts itself far too easy to the worship of power. Christians should give more offense, shock the world far more than they are doing now. Christians should take a strong stand in favor of the weak rather than considering first the possible right of the strong. That was written in the early days of the Holocaust and Nazism by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And I think that just to take a moment to think about who are we defending and who are we uplifting and who are we speaking for and what are we speaking against? I think that's important. Let's just take a moment to think. Let our anger motivate us to change, motivate us to promote and uplift those that are oppressed and marginalized. Let our anger motivate us to transform and to speak where we need to speak. And let our anger never silence who we are and what Christ wants for us and for all people. So, hard transition. I mean, how do you follow up that, right? I mean, honestly, how do you get up here and do this after yesterday? I would have to say that I did not learn about yesterday until about 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, I was in a state of shock. I couldn't work for about like 15 minutes. I couldn't even function in what I was doing because that's all I could think about. And quite sad and quite just malaise came over me because I don't want to believe where we are today is where we are today. Yet the reality is this is where we are today. So there are action steps that we can take. And just to give you a cursor, we are working proactively with our immigration team in Sherwood to produce materials that will help immigrants and people that are documented or undocumented. And it's pre, during, and post detainment. If somebody is in fear, there's materials that we're going to start soon. Trainings. It did come out of lawyer review this week. And so we're able to make the changes and to work towards the training dates. And so one of the trainings we're going to be invited to and to walk through the materials, to be an ally, to be someone that can help a family if they're in need, or to just call upon you to distribute the materials to the people that you know. Sometimes we just need to just be the deliverer or the advocate that would get paperwork in people's hands. So we need to have all of us on that team to move forward. Well, we're going to move with Bruce Arnold is joining us today. And we're going to move from awareness to formation. Last year, when we brought Bruce, he was mostly talking about awareness, just bringing awareness to challenges and problems. Yet I think it's important to talk about awareness and to kind of wake ourselves up a little bit about what's going on. Yet we need to do some more work and move into like, how is this shaping us? How is this forming us? How does our homeless community house this community? And I still need help with those words. How are those communities shaping us, forming us? How can I be more active? And what are we actually stepping into and being like, quote, called into doing? Every month we do this over here. We produce a meal for our friends without homes downtown, a part of Home PDX, which Bruce leads. And that every month, it's been like, I don't know how many years. It's been a while.
A few years.
A few years. I know it's over 10. But we've been doing this every month faithfully as a group, providing a meal to, sometimes there's 100. Sometimes there's more than 100. Sometimes there's, smaller groups. Depends, I think, on how cold it is outside and who's around. And so there's various groups that come, and everyone gets a meal without judgment, without any kind of, well, I can't say without judgment, because sometimes we carry preconceived judgments into, wherever we're going, yet perceived or displayed without judgment, and just giving a meal, meeting people where they are. So I want to ask you a few questions, because I think that we've done this for long enough, and I wonder sometimes, is there more we can do? And honestly, I think that that's changed probably every year, maybe every 6 months. Yeah, there's always more we can do. But we talked about a year ago, basically awareness and the landscape. So what has changed since last year? So we talked, we saw the situation. This situation was probably, I think, larger in people's minds last year than it is right now. That's kind of unfortunate. Political and violence and things probably have gone to the forefront of the burner, versus now we're not aware sometimes of what's happening around us with people without homes. But what has changed since last year? And how have you changed?
So last year, if you remember, we had an election for Portland mayor, and homelessness was the #1 issue. Every debate, every platform plank, everything, that was the #1 debate. And every candidate had their answer to homelessness. The one we elected, among other things, promised 1,500 new shelter beds to help accommodate or help to solve this problem. And I don't know if you're ready to put the graphic up or not, but I wanted to show you what has happened in that year. So he started in office middle of January, so about a year ago. That middle, the orange part of that graph, is shelter beds. He came very close to 1,500 additional shelter beds. He really did a fantastic job, gathered a bunch of resources, opened up new shelters. Meanwhile, the total outdoor population went up by 4,500. So congratulations on 1,500 shelter beds. That's amazing. And there are 3,000 more people outdoors now than a year ago. We're expecting 1,700 more just because of federal housing subsidies that have been stopped. So for all the effort, Herculean effort and budgeting it took, we're still losing ground.
So,
if you go walk downtown,
okay,
compared to a year ago, there are a lot fewer tents. And you could think outside your car window, hey, he's solving the problem. But he's not.
So why 3,000 more? What has happened in the last year or a couple of years that has driven the 3,000? Because that's staggering to me.
Yeah. So if you go to Multnomah County homeless count, you can find this same document. This is part of a 8 or 9 page document. They are doing a whole different way of counting than they used to. They used to do a point-in-time survey at the end of January. Now they do a by-name survey. Every person who engages services, every person they engage on the streets, if they're willing to give them a name, they track that name. So at the top of that graph, it says 18,000 people living outdoors, 17,155. We used to think it was 6,000 according to the point-in-time count. This is by name. This is a solid number. It's done definitely more than this, but this is a solid number. So where they're coming from is largely out of housing.
Okay.
It's evictions, usually for lack of payment. It's people dropping out of housing onto the streets.
So either subsidies have ended or the motivation to house people has ended. Something has happened in housing that has driven people out on the streets. Probably a litany of reasons and problems.
And the document describes it if you want to read more detail.
So that's staggering. That is unfortunate. Do you think that So what are the systemic problems? So I just said that probably is a litany of reasons. So get specific. What are the systemic problems you're seeing? Why are people leaving those homes? What is happening?
Actually, I want to look at the flip side of systemic problems. I just said if you look out your window, you see fewer people on the streets. And I just showed you a graph that said there's more. What's going on? We went from 50 to 75 camp sweeps a week to all across last year, about 250 a week. He's also sweeping cars, RVs, vans. They are trying to clear people off the streets to make it look like they solved the problem. That has a systemic effect on my ministry and every other downtown ministry, because now our people are moving every week, and it's hard to find them. I had a guy who I took to the ER a couple months ago, and I went to pick him up for his follow-up doctor's appointment. I couldn't find him. He had been swept, and the place he went to had been swept, and I couldn't find him for his doctor's appointment.
So where are they going? Where are they at?
Into hiding or moving every day, or every morning you pack up all your stuff, put it on your back, and they can't find you to sweep you because they only sweep during the day.
I see, yeah.
One of those three. But they're trying to get out of sight so they don't get swept.
Well, that's surprising. What are other things that surprised you this year that you didn't see coming? Like, wow, that was different.
A big one that I didn't see coming, and you can ask any downtown agency, they'll say the same thing. We have a huge drop in donations. And there's not good research on why, but everyone across the board has seen a huge drop in donations. Individuals, corporate, business, grants, all those categories are down.
Well, I can give you maybe a reason why. So there's a false narrative that's happening right now that the economy is great, the economy's good. It's only probably good for certain sectors and people, mostly people who already have money or investments or such. It might be good for them. But for the common purchaser, the common person just walking around, the economy is not good. Most like hospitality industry is anywhere from 13 to 20% down. So seeing how people function in the economy, it mostly has to do with customer confidence. I am afraid to spend my money because I don't know what's going to happen. So Friday, gold was $4,900 an ounce. So what that tells me is that people are putting money in safe investments. It's secure investments. They don't want to keep the cash to spend the cash, right? So they put it in gold. So that's driving that market in gold. The stock market's controlled basically by 10 companies. So that's a safe place to put your money.
So quick thing we got to hand over here, but real quick thing in addition, you mentioned consumer confidence. We have donors who gave a bunch of money last year to all these organizations. And look, you're not solving the problem. The graph is up. Why should I give you more money?
So customer confidence down, which then means people are just afraid to loosen their checkbook. So it doesn't surprise me that it's down because the economy is at least completely flat, if not showing signs of recession. So that is real, and that's something that there's many people, and especially in the nonprofit world, I've been warning people for probably about a quarter, like, hey, this is going to happen. Are you prepared for this to happen? So yeah, it makes sense why that is, but nobody saw that coming, probably. Yeah. When you have chaos going on in leadership, that just drives, confidence down at every level. Did we have a question? Somebody had their hand raised? Yeah, go ahead. Does sweeping mean taken?
So a camp sweep means you need to get all of your stuff out of here. They'll post a camp or a block or an area, these green posters. I should have brought one. You have 72 hours to get all of your stuff out of there, or they come in and sweep it out.
They just take all their stuff.
That's a camp sweep, yeah.
They don't take the person, they take the stuff.
Correct. They don't sweep people. Although if they come in to sweep and you have a warrant, then you are going to be swept as well.
Right. So, so what is something that you learned out of all this that like a book couldn't teach you? Like, what is your street smart growth? Name a couple things that you learned.
I've spent a lot of time contemplating. So if you're in the business, you'll hear something called compassion fatigue. You have compassion for all these people, and boy, is it wearing thin now. I've been contemplating the difference between compassion and pity.
And what?
Pity. I pity this poor person.
Yeah, pity. Yeah.
Pity is looking down,
Yeah.
and pity wants a solution or a reason. Compassion, if you tear that apart to its Latin root, means to suffer with. Compassion doesn't look down, it sits down with
Right.
and feels the pain. So I'm not sure how much of compassion fatigue is compassion and how much of compassion fatigue is pity that can't go any further because it's thin to begin with.
So you're maybe thinking that the fatigue comes from pity fatigue.
I mean, I can see compassion fatigue in terms of I only have so much
Time.
energy, psyche to spread around.
Mhm.
But compassion has more to do with sitting with and feeling the other than it does with, I'm going to find a solution to this.
I think everyone in the room would be committed. We are committed. Most everybody brings something, for a home PDX meal. Most everybody that I know, has served or gone down in some way with home PDX, either bringing food or serving or cooking or whatever. At some point in the last, decade and a half that we've done this. So I think that people they have compassion. We are committed to what we're doing, yet people possibly don't know the cost required to turn the corner on this. There's a cost required, and that moves into more, okay, we have pity, we have compassion, which is suffering along with, but now we have sacrifice. And so what does real commitment look like to you? Because I know that you're committed beyond, right?
Yeah.
Very committed. So what does committed mean to you? What does that look like?
So you guys already have one level of commitment down. When you come downtown, when you've got enough people to hand out the meal, that sets me free to go person to person among my people, hear what's going on, hear where we can maybe do something different or helpful, or just listen. If I have enough people serving the meal, I can do that. If I don't, then I'm helping to hand out plates and I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. So that's one level. A whole nother level, the thing about compassion is it requires sacrifice at the beginning. Compassion requires that I look at these people and say, oh, that's my sister. That's right. My brother. They're my equal.
Right.
I'm not looking down. I'm not riding in with my resources to fix problems. I'm sitting with my sister and brother over a meal. We are one of the organizations that doesn't just serve behind a table and tell you to go find a seat. We bring lunch out to people. And if we have enough crew or if the delivery is done, you are more than welcome to sit and meet some people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that goes well and sometimes that doesn't. But we are one of the places where the crew often eats the same food and often does that by sitting down with our friends and eating with them. And my friends see that and feel that. It's I don't know how that's a sacrifice because we serve really good food. I mean, if it's peanut butter and jello sandwiches every day of the week, it would be a sacrifice. But you guys especially bring some really good food. So it's actually kind of fun to sit down with a plate of good food and meet a new person. If you want to, we're doing trivia today after the meal.
The kitchen, beer soup. Yeah.
We're doing trivia today after the meal. If you want to hang around and even compete, if you want to, it's not competition, but if you want to join or if you don't want to just watch, you will be amazed how intelligent my friends are. I've had so many volunteers come up to me after trivia and go, I didn't know houseless people were that smart. They're the same people we are.
I'm really bad at trivia, so
it's fun to watch, even if you just watch.
So commitment, sacrifice. I can see there's lots of sacrifice, there's lots of commitment, and you have a team around you that's sacrificing, committing. What I wonder is, when do you start to see the inconvenience? At what point you see when is it just Bruce? At what point is it just Bruce? It's so uncomfortable. So when does the uncomfortability start? For people like us who live in the burbs and, the burg, we all live in just kind of away places. At some point it gets uncomfortable. Where's that uncomfortability line?
For a lot of people, that's face to face. How comfortable are you face to face with some of my outdoor friends?
Yeah.
And some of that can be very surface level stuff like, wow, that's quite the smell.
Right.
And I'm going to talk to God someday because I've got a very good sense of smell. I don't know why he called me to this. And some of it is, there's something out of whack with this person and now I'm uncomfortable. For some reason, and I credit this to God because I didn't do this, I stay comfortable. I do jail visits. I do hospital visits. I walk into strangers' camps and say hi. That's uncomfortable. There's a certain level of sacrifice there, but I feel called and equipped to do that. So I do it.
And not everybody does.
Not everybody can. That's fair.
And not everybody can. Although I think that there's commitment and that commitment fatigue or compassion fatigue or whatever language you want to put around that. There is a fatigue to what you're doing. You're committed, you're going, you're serving, you're being with people in jails and hospital visits and all that. Yet there's I think there's a line or somewhere for people that are not used to it or not that it turns to avoidance. I think there is something to avoidance that we need to consider, that I can't handle the smell. Yeah, but we all changed poopy diapers when we were, as parents. So it's like, okay, is it really the smell or am I using that as a reason to avoid? And I think that in our privilegedness, a lot of times we use the simplest of excuses to avoid.
The biggest avoidance language, the most common avoidance language I hear is, I don't feel like I'm really making a difference. And there's things I want to say it's really quick and I don't because I'm nicer than that. But
yeah,
I mean, this has been a problem for all of human history. You're going to solve it in one afternoon?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to solve it in one lifetime? No. It's always, Jesus said the poor you'll always have with you.
Right.
But I have a lot of people I had a food team, this was 12 years ago. It was an extended family. They brought down the meal. A little harder for them because it was all of 10 or 12 people. But they came up to me one day and they said, hey, we're thinking about quitting. We're not making a difference. And I asked two of the family members, I said, step back and watch. Watch people's faces as they get a plate of food and watch what I'm doing because you're here. Yeah. And they stayed with me for 4 more years.
It's awesome.
But at that point, they were at one point where they're like, we're not making a difference. We're done. Well, what if you are?
Yeah. I think there's a lot to making a difference. Like their future selves will remember the interaction. And we might not realize it in the moment, but our future self will realize it, that there was a difference being made. We can't see it when we're just amongst it.
Yep.
So taking a perspective moment is important. Yeah.
But also be careful to differentiate making a difference from solving a problem.
Yeah, that's good.
When I watched someone get a pair of socks on Tuesday night at Burritos, and just this, as they put that fresh pair of socks on, I didn't solve the problem, but that person tells me I made a difference. Actually, Max likes to hand out the socks, so Max made a difference.
When I first became a person of faith, I got involved in a church, and kids actually taught me. Like, I was involved in a youth group. I was older. I was a quote leader. I don't know what kind of leader I was, but I was, some kind of leader in the group. And that group of young people taught me different things. They taught me that there were like important statements that this person called Jesus made, like love your neighbor. And I thought that was important. They taught me, the widow, take care of the widow, the orphan, and the foreigner. And I thought that was an important statement. Consider others more than yourself. And I remember reading those statements and literally like hinging my life on those, because I was in such a bad place at that moment that I needed those statements to survive and to then eventually thrive. So I believed them when they told me these statements. For some reason, now we've kind of thrown all that out the window as people of faith, and we no longer believe those statements, but I still believe those statements. So I think that part of long-term faithfulness in what you're doing is actually believing certain things about the person we believe in, that person told us certain things to hinge our life on. And that's long-term faithfulness versus an emotional response. And I think the emotional response, and please speak into this, I want to fix this. And that's more dependency. That doesn't create faithfulness. So it's very easy to like be codependent on like houseless ministry.
Oh yeah, very easy.
Where I'm just like feeding myself off of this. I feel like a better person because I'm doing this. So it's not an emotional response that produces long-term faithfulness and the commitment, the compassion. Do you have anything to say about that?
Do I have anything to say about that? A number of things. One of the ones you left out was love your enemy.
Correct. Yes.
We're not very good at that one. We like to name our enemies.
Right.
Our Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal.
Yes.
Okay, it's in writing and we're nodding our heads, but do we act that way?
Accordingly, probably not.
So one of the theologies I like to dwell in year after year is, this is my sister, this is my brother. Do I treat them that way?
Mm-hmm.
If your sister is in the hospital, if your brother is freezing cold because the clothes they're wearing are miserable, do you just pray over them and go on to the next person?
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. No, you would invite them into you would say, come home, get off the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break with that. It's a good transition spot into our table talks. So we have 3 questions to start. So those 3 questions will be up on the screens. Take about, 6 minutes? Take about 5 or 6 minutes to talk about those. If you get to the first one or second one, great. If you don't make it through all 3, that's just fine. You're going to have more opportunity here in the near future. So take the 6 minutes and do a table talk. All right, I'm going to welcome you back to the front to bring those conversations to a close. I'm going to do something a little bit different that we haven't done basically in the past is I want to know what you learned from your table. What spoke to you the most, and just show your hand and speak, and then I'll repeat it in the microphone for our online listeners. So what did you learn the most? And let's call this non-optional. I really want a little bit of feedback. Everyone has something to include. I'm not going to call on everybody because we don't have time, but I don't want to necessarily sit inside. So those of you who have courage, what did you learn in your table talk?
A pattern for us was the difference between like reach and grasp.
A pattern for us was the difference between reaching and grasp.
I see these problems. What can I do about them? And if I see all the problems, I can't do anything about all the problems, but I can do something about the things in my town, my community.
So I can't do everything. I see all these problems. I can't do everything about everything, all the problems, but maybe some things in my community are within grasp, within reach. Okay. Who else? What did you learn from your table? Yeah.
Well, we talked about a little bit more of the long-term solution, and we're talking about the mellow challenge, people that have
Mhm.
can't even hold a job necessarily, and so what do we do with that?
Yeah. So long-term challenges of mental illness and maybe even add physical disabilities to that as well, mental disabilities that are just not a go get a job and fix it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would probably advocate also the Dr. Martin Luther King statement of the idea of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. What happens when you have not been given boots and straps? So there's a lot of systemic issues and oppressive issues that are not just get a job and fix it. There's a lot of challenges and layers of poverty that need to be sifted through as well for those that aren't mentally or physically disabled. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Bill, what'd you say?
I've been going down there for 8, 9, 10 years. Out of that 17,156, how many children are they now counting? Because I had noticed last year, we have a lot more children.
So the question is, out of the 17,000 that are reported, and Bill has been involved in this for quite some time, how many children are now being counted or being considered in that figure?
They will tell you right up front in that report that minors are the most undercounted population on the street.
Makes sense.
They don't want to be counted. They don't want to be known by name because they could get in trouble.
Yeah.
So they are drastically undercounted. And the point in time survey had the same problem.
And school districts do a moderately okay job in counting. Well, there's 2 districts that I know that do a moderate okay job of counting their couch surfing kids, those kids without homes for various reasons.
Yep.
There are reported figures, although those figures have gone from, there's 40 to 400. How did we get from 40 to 400 overnight? I think the counting has gotten at least a little more accurate, maybe.
Yeah, education does a really good job of counting, but their definition of homeless is very different than this Multnomah
This
County definition.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into our next theme. And the next theme is what works and what doesn't. Basically simple. I've been thinking a lot about this. Not simple. Simple, not simple. Simple question. I've been thinking a lot about this because when it comes to social issues, and with certain friends that I have that I engage in certain conversations with, social issues become like political dog whistles for some. You just kind of throw out a poor statistic or data point that you heard, once, or maybe there's no data backing the statement, right? Well, that doesn't work because A, B, and C, and that's not even true, right? Or this works, and if we would just do this because of A, B, and C, and that's not backed by any data or information that's legitimate either, right? So those are political dog whistles that, well, if people would just get a job, or if we would get people off the streets, or if we'd police and criminalize homelessness, then that would work. But there's no data behind those dog whistles, and people go, yeah, and they kind of all agree in the room. So I've been thinking about what works and what doesn't work, and the real data behind certain social issues, and what causes these social challenges that we have. And a lot of it has to do with more of a broader systemic challenge as our United, like this is take our United States or our state. It's a broader challenge that's not a dog whistle. It's almost like a PhD report, right? Where we just can't, pop it off and get, 5 likes on our Facebook post. So or 2000, because people like to hear certain things. So there's systemic problems, there's challenges that are long-term challenges. So you're in the long-term challenge work, not the short dog whistle work, and you're working off of real like data points here. 1,500 beds, but we had an increase of 3,500 people, which is staggering. So over the past year, just look at the last year, what interventions proved effective? Like, what do you see statewide? We had time, place, and manner. Was that effective? That was implemented. I'm not sure if that was that just kind of a sweeping mentality? Let's just move people around. So what interventions proved effective?
So I'm going to start with 2 caveats, and I have to. Number one is the people who come back to me later and say, wow, this really helped me. Some of the times I never even saw it. Sometimes it was a word I said or something I thought was simple that they thought was profound. So you're asking me for an answer when some of the time I don't even see the answer right in front of me. And the other caveat I'm going to give is there is no one answer. One of the things that really bothered me about the mayoral election is each candidate had this basically conveyor belt of a process. Take outdoor person, put them on the conveyor belt, they come out housed and happy. Every person's story is different, every person's answer is different. So for what really works and what has really worked in the last year and the years before that is personal. Person by person, what are you experiencing? What is your barrier? Do you want help with that? Okay, what would help with that? Mm-hmm. So I can't give one answer. And even when I think like, oh, this has worked so well, and then I try to use it with the next person and it just blows up, because this is a different person living a different piece of reality. Mm-hmm. So I can't give you one answer except to say, at least at my level of experience, it's person to person, it's listening, and it's being willing to act when I can. And that's kind of a cheap answer because there are systemic problems that have to be solved. Person to person, I don't know how long it would take before that solved housing availability, actually having a place for people to be. So there are systemic issues.
But that's unsexy because like coats at Christmas is sexy, right? Like let's all go down and do the big turkey feed, and Thanksgiving, that's sexy. So person to person conversations, that just doesn't seem as, attractive to me. So, but those are the well-funded things. The sexy programs can get really well-funded. So what is well-funded that you see doesn't work?
Well, for one thing, They did an audit of one of our tiny home villages, the biggest one, Clinton Village, and they determined that they were spending $135 per person per night. And that's not, they didn't build the houses, the state did. That's just operation cost.
Wow.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, $135 a person a night. First of all, that's more than rent. I could put someone in a hotel room for that and still have money left over for food and whatever.
Yeah.
So we're throwing a lot of money out there, and we're not doing a good assessment of what's working and what isn't.
So 18,000, was it 17,000 or 18,000?
We know it's more than 17,000.
Okay, so 17,500. Let's split the difference for now. So 17.5. That's a lot of people, but that's not an unfathomable amount of people. Like that is within the scope of 18,000 people. There's some, Christian nationalist megachurches out there that you put like 3 or 4 of those together, and that's 18,000 people. So, so it's not it's an enormous amount of people, but it's not an unreasonable, like this is out of reach. And I think that if I could just state this, the metrics that we throw out and we say, like you just said, that metric, like $135 a night
Per person per night. Yep.
that does not match the human story. That does not marry their human story, right? So let's say we buy a Motel 6 and we kind of throw everybody into the Motel 6. Does that match their human story? Probably not. Let's remodel a prison and let's throw everybody in there. That doesn't match a human story. That actually was tried, or not successful, or didn't get off the ground, but it doesn't match the human story. So the human story is what you're saying. Their human story is unique, but also imperative and essential to consider in the work. So how do you marry that to the work? You get to know them, you talk to them, but then that's where my avoidance comes in, because the face-to-face avoidance then starts the smell.
So yeah, this also speaks to your previous question of where do the compassionate people start to disappear? Even though you guys put a lot of effort into this, it is relatively easy to bring food downtown and hand it out. It's a lot harder to person by person say, oh, you've got work skills, you just need to X or Y or Z. I had a guy who came to me and said he really, really wanted to be a long haul truck driver, but he left home before he turned 16. He never had a license. It took 3.5 years. We went from permit to license to a truck driving permit to truck driving school. For the last 8 years, he's been a long haul truck driver. But that took 3.5 years. And some of those 3.5 years were setbacks. So it's not, there's a level of commitment and long-term work in there that scares some people. But that person is beautifully stable right now. And they weren't on the street.
So the sentiment keeping them housed is better than trying to house them or getting them housing. So keeping them housed. So this 3,000 or 3,500 that was dehoused, if that's a word, they were dehoused. That's a crisis to me, because every statistic or every sentiment about it, if we can keep them housed and just keep them in the place they're in, is better. And that's really unfortunate, because that was just maybe a financial, we couldn't come up with the low income rent for that moment.
Yeah.
And that was maybe a series of decisions that but now we're at a bigger problem. We're now at simple decisions created a huge problem over here.
The other thing I can speak to, because you'll hear this on the news if you dig into it, there was an initiative called Housing First. Get people into housing, then work on the issues. They're safe, you know where they are, you can find them. And that is collapsing across the country right now. It's been deemed a complete failure. The reason it failed had nothing to do with Housing First. The reason it failed is no one did that follow-up. Hey, now that you're in housing, what's in front of you? What's the barrier you need to jump over next?
Right.
If you don't do that second step, if you just put a bunch of people into housing, I don't care which people group it is, it's not going to go over real well. They're going to get bored, or they don't know how to be in housing, or they've still got this issue or that issue that's not being addressed.
And that kind of goes back to our definition of what is a win in this. What is the definition of winning in this crisis? Because, yeah, we got them in a house. Is that winning? Like, that's this only one step of winning, or they're thriving. But that's the sexy part. Again, it's like, oh, if we could just, coats for Christmas, and we could just get coats out there for Christmas, we can just get that. That doesn't necessarily solve it.
So we got to be aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because we do need coats in the winter.
Yep.
Although, if you honestly are concerned about people being cold, I'd like you to know that winter starts in October. So if you bring me coats for Christmas, you're 2 months late.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because I'm going to knock donations out for myself. But if you care about people being warm,
July, or is it shorts in July? I mean, that's
sometimes.
yeah.
We do better at t-shirts and shorts than we do at coats and hats and gloves.
Okay. All right.
But if you wanted, we tried this a couple of years. It didn't fly very well, but we tried to do Christmas in September. Bring us your coats in September. We'll have them on the streets by October when it's getting cold.
Yeah.
So you're right. One of the things that just a quick little side note on this topic, though. I talked to the guy who runs volunteer services at Portland Rescue Mission, and he gave me this astounding fact. He said he needs something on the order of 2,000 volunteer hours a month, plus their own people, to run his operation. 1/3 of all the volunteer requests he gets from people who want to come volunteer are for Thanksgiving Day. One day of the year. 1/3 of all the people who want to volunteer that day.
So gratefulness, when we perceive somebody's gratefulness, I would perceive that as when needs are supplied. That's when, like, my gratefulness would engage. Wow, I'm really grateful that my need was supplied. It reminds me of taking all of our junk to the Salvation Army, or to some drop-off center where we take all our junk that we don't want anymore, and we think that somebody wants it, right? So we take it down there, and then they say, no, we don't need 50 ball jars that you're not using, that are used, that don't have tops, right? So that's a real example. So we take this down there, and they don't want it. Well, why? You're not grateful. It's not supplying a need. So the need is in September. The need is in October. The need is in July. And my awareness, my increase of being awake in this conversation is, I need to learn that if I'm a person of privilege, I need to learn when the need is. I need to be aware of the actual needs. Like giving you, 1,000, tubes of toothpaste, and that's all I give you without toothbrushes. That's a problem, right?
And toothpaste and toothbrushes is the most over-available need on the street. Everybody has them. Everybody can't handle what they have, because that's what they get a lot of.
Correct. And so what about all the other stuff
Yep.
that is not?
What about foot powder? What about razors? What about,
Right. Let's move into, answer this. If you could stop 3 things, if you were in control of the world, maybe that's too broad. If you were in control of this issue in the world, what are 3 things that you would stop doing?
I've been contemplating this since you sent me the questions. Again, it comes back to each person is different. I had a conversation in my prayer group last week where this guy said, hey, I went to the food bank here in Newburgh, one of the churches that does a food bank, and all they're doing is handing out food. They're not talking about Christ. There's nothing changing. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if you don't hand out food, nothing will change. So I'm really leery of what to shut down, because at some level you'd want to say something like, well, you hand out food and tomorrow they're hungry again. Am I really making a difference? Well, tomorrow they're still alive. That's a plus. So what to shut down?
Give me one.
Give you one.
Give me one.
Well, I mean, for one thing, this homeless industrial complex that is spending so much money on temporary solutions.
Yeah.
The mayor opened up 1,500 shelter beds. 1,200 of those are mats on the floor. You can't check in until 8 o'clock, and you have to be out by 6. It is still dark and cold at 6, but you have to be out by 6. The whys have nothing to do with homelessness. The whys are things like someone's using that building during the day, or my volunteers need to go to work, or whatever.
Insurance.
Maybe, well, actually, one of the whys is I don't have money to provide breakfast. So if I kick you out at 6, go find breakfast. But my point is, they're spending a lot of money opening up all these facilities
Yeah.
for that brief period at night. And most of my outdoor friends don't want to sleep on a mat with 45 other people right next to them.
So I have this whole section on trauma, boundaries. I don't know if we have a lot of time to cover all the questions in it. So I'm going to just ask 2 of them. And maybe there's something that you want to include to make sure that you get your theme included in this. We went through a trauma resilience training, part 1, last year with our very own Bethany Flug and her community resilience methods. And so we have maybe a little bit deeper understanding of trauma. Let's just say just a little bit. How has your trauma, not your personal trauma, but your understanding of personal trauma deepened in the last handful of years? These people, this community, definitely is experiencing trauma. When you told me last year that if you spend 3 sleepless nights, you're now in the mode of making really poor decisions. That's trauma, right? So being addicted and getting addicted, that's very easy to do when you're like living outside, scared and fear, all that. So you've now spent another year working with people in that fear or in that trauma. So how has it deepened for you? What is a new understanding of trauma that you have?
Richard Foster once said there's 2 things you don't dare pray for unless you're ready for struggle. And in his case, that was humility. The other one will come to me in a moment. But you can't learn that from a book. You learn that from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I'll throw into that same bucket compassion. Compassion means to suffer with. If you're doing compassion well, you are suffering. That's how compassion works. That means you are sharing trauma. So are you ready to put trauma on your shoulders? It's not even yours to begin with. Because if you can take some of it off someone else's shoulders, or if you can process it together, that's real change. Most of my people on the street are on the street because of trauma. Either family of origin trauma, or divorce, loss of job, loss of apartment trauma. Some kind of trauma has put them on the street. Most of them, not all of them.
Major event.
Some are out for an adventure, some are whatever, but most of my people have trauma in their past.
Yeah.
If we really want to make a difference, after the food, after the clothing, are we going to help them process that trauma? And if we are, then we are going to experience it too. That's just how compassion works.
Yeah. So the sentiment, if I give them $10, I'm enabling them. That sentiment. That's a very avoidant, very immature type look. If I give you $20, then I'm like enabling your whatever it is that is defined in my head by declaring that. So, but there is something real to real help versus rescue help. So long-term help versus rescue help versus enablement of some kind. Can you just speak to like when do things cross into enablement that you've seen?
Finding the line between empowerment and dependency is a Holy Spirit level action. Those people with psychology degrees still get it wrong. So that's very, very hard to pin that down person by person, but you do need to be looking for it because it is there. So like one of the things I'll almost never do is help someone pay rent. Not just because it's expensive, but because, and if I'm thinking about it, the next question I ask is, what's your plan for next month?
Yeah.
Because I can throw a lot of money on rent and 30 days later, we're right back where we were. What's your plan for next month? There are times when I go ahead and decide, okay, I'm going to give this person $10.
Mhm.
I try to listen to the Holy Spirit because some people can handle it and some people can't. And I don't know the difference with my own eyes. But I also like to say things like, hey, you're worth way more than this $10. I'm not just throwing at this you because I have money and you don't. You're worth this. I want that message to go along with that little piece of green. So it's how you do it, but it is also what you do.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to create dependencies, I don't want to create, I come back to you every time my cell phone dies because I need help paying the bill.
Yeah.
That's a dependency.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can say to the person, how have you been paying your cell phone bill? Is this a one-time gap? I could help with that. Is this, hey, I need my cell phone on because I just applied for a job and they're going to call me? I can help with that, although that's a common line people give when it's not true. But I can help with that.
Right.
But if it's just, hey, my cell just went dead, help me.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next time your cell goes dead? To me, that kind of a question helps determine the difference between I'm helping or I'm creating dependency. And again, I don't always get this right. I've messed this up before myself, but it is an excellent thing to be looking for and watching for.
I think we all struggle with that with all relationships in our lives. I mean, that's the mystery of human relationships is when are you doing too much? When are you doing too little? When do you need to step in? When do you need to step out? I mean, as a parent, I'm thinking about that all the time. So what do I need to like do for this person that's real help that's going to create long-term change? And it might be $10, but you know, when I'm asked for $10 for the next, 18 years as a parent, it's like, well, maybe I need to like help them get a job so they can, buy their own Doritos or whatever it is. All right.
One of the biggest things I do, because I can, is just to walk with people.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got this medical appointment and I don't know how to talk to doctors. Or I need to go apply for this housing thing and I'm scared. I'll just go with you. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm really big about, you need to go get that prescription. I'll go with you and I'll swipe my card, but you go up and talk to the pharmacist. That's your prescription.
Yeah. Let's take another 5-minute break for table talks. Just pick a couple of those questions that are going to be up on the screen, and then we'll come back for our final session and a Q&A. Those pieces of paper are for your questions. So if you want to write questions on those pieces of paper, Sheree is going to collect those at the end, and then we'll do our Q&A at the end. we're gonna, sorry, we're gonna bring those conversations to a close and make sure that you give Sharia your questions if you have any questions. Well, let's talk about community responsibility. There is a community responsibility that I think that we need to have when it comes to this. And I would like to start thinking about the neighborhood model. When we are told to love our neighbors, what does that actually mean? Well, we do live around people. We do have relationships, hopefully, with a few people around in our neighborhood. But when I think about Sherwood, or I think about, our neighbors that are around us, like in Newburgh or very close to us, there's quite a few houseless people in Multnomah County. Why? Because there's a lot of services in Multnomah County, possibly, that people are accessing, or the community just has congregated there in Multnomah County. And then we look at Sherwood, or we look at other places, and we go, well, there's no homeless people here. So I would say that in suburban communities like Sherwood, we oftentimes unintentionally and intentionally opt out of responsibility. That's just where we're at. I don't want to say that it's always intentionally. I want to give room for unintentional opt out, but we do unintentionally and intentionally opt out of responsibility. Maybe because we don't want to deal with it. It's too far away. It's over there. It's their problem. So what does it mean to you to practice hospitality in this realm, in the houseless realm, in neighborhoods like Sherwood, or neighborhoods like Newburgh or Tigard, where we do have more homeless people in Tigard, but excuse me, we have more visible homeless people in Tigard. So what do you help us with hospitality? What does that look like in these neighborhoods?
So first of all, we have to acknowledge you don't have people living outdoors in Sherwood, because Sherwood as a whole intentionally and quickly gets those people out of here. I had 3 friends who tried to escape the drama, and they hopped on the 99 bus or whatever one it is, ended up in downtown Sherwood, went to what they thought was an out-of-way place by the railroad tracks to pitch their tent, and in 3 hours, the sheriff was there. 3 hours. That was their vacation. Newburgh had a similar incident, because before COVID, if they saw you living outdoors, they put all your belongings in the police car and said, Tigard or McMinnville, your choice, but you're leaving. So we create these spaces.
Yeah.
Within that reality, what can you do as a neighbor? One approach is, who are the people that are my neighbors? Maybe you have seniors who are essentially locked into their homes, can't get out very much. Maybe you have youth who really could use mentorship help. So you can find the need, because there's always need. But you said within the realm of homelessness, houselessness, whatever word you want to use there.
Yeah. What words should we use?
I just talk about my friends who live outdoors.
Okay.
And if we're talking about systems, that's where I use the word homelessness, because that's what they use. But when I'm talking about people, I talk about my friends who live outdoors.
Okay, thank you.
And that's just my choice. That's not like the answer. If you want to engage with this situation, with this reality, you either have to leave Sherwood to go to the reality, or you have to invite the reality back to Sherwood with you. Yeah, I like that. I have been trying for years to line up some resources where I think this person is ready. Can we get them at some stability and see what happens? And I know that's going to fail more often than it's going to succeed. But like my truck driver, there are some people who need a hand, and maybe it's more than a week, to get stable, to get ready, to get back on their feet. I had one gentleman who said, I just need to start working so I can make my way in the world. And I talked a church in Multnomah Village into kind of picking him up. They had someone who was doing house remodeling at the time, so they hired him to come in. That gave him a leg up. He chose to walk away from it. But So this is another thing about my job. My job is to prove to people the door is open. There are possibilities. It's not my job to drag them through that door. We opened a door for this guy. He worked for a day and a half. He did some good work, and he made some choices, and he walked away. But I hate to say it in this way. We did our part. Again, I'm not going to force people. So if I had a lineup of people who are like, don't ask for more than a couple days, but maybe someone could come. Maybe we have an ADU behind the house or a bedroom that we're safe with, or maybe we could get someone into a job and see how it goes. Or I'm dreaming, I'm fantasizing because it's worked so few times. But you either have to go to the issue or you got to bring the issue back to Sherwood with you if you're going to engage the issue, because you don't have it here.
I guess I wonder sometimes why, not necessarily Sherwood, but why aren't communities taking responsibility for what's happening in their neighborhood? It's really easy to play victim, and there's lots of people playing victim right now, like people that look and act like me, right? So they just play the states against me. It's the Democrats' fault. We tend to like throw blame cast blame onto other people, and that's an avoidance. That's a way that I opt out of responsibility, is if I can just blame another. So I was just down in Grants Pass just the other day, and I was a little surprised, taken back about the amount of friends without homes that are literally on pieces of property very visible to the community, like right next to the City Hall building, time, place, and manner. But there is a large amount of people there in little old Grants Pass, where I used to live. I used to live there. And we always, because it's on the I-5, we had houseless people. We had people that would drive the highway out to the coast, and they would end up breaking down, or they were just out there, on their own, and they would stop by the faith community that I was leading there. They would stop by and ask for help because we were on that highway or what have you. So there was a presence always, but not quite like this presence. And I'm not sure the change. It has happened in the last handful of years. What I did notice, though, is the people that I was friends with, certain people, they have commented that, I can't believe Portland has this housing problem, Portland. And then I drive down to Grants Pass and I go, hello, are you even awake? Do you even notice when you drive downtown? Or are you completely avoiding downtown? So I'm wondering, why isn't Grants Pass just taking the initiative themselves, advocating, people involved, people coming together to not necessarily solve or fix, but to walk alongside, right? So that's an avoidance, non-responsibility. So I think that the practice of hospitality, like we're talking about, definitely is the boots on the ground activity versus just advocating for the state policy to change. I think that that's hard, but also kind of it's their fault type of thing. Because I do believe that smaller communities can bring stability where the state can't bring that stability, but small communities can bring stability. Did you have a question? Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. And if you Google homelessness issues, Grants Pass will come up in the first couple articles. It's nationally known now.
It's nationally known as the third per capita, the third largest houseless population.
It's nationally known for a lawsuit where they tried to stop people being in their parks and whatever else.
Right.
Well, so this is what's interesting about Grants Pass. I love how you drive downtown and see it. They decided to set up, I think they're up to 4 authorized camps, and they're all downtown, and they're all very visible.
Right next to City Hall, right next to...
Yeah, they're not out a little ways. They're not tucked away in the corner of a park. Mm-hmm. They're right there where everyone sees them. Good or bad, you decide, but Grants Pass has made it very visible. Portland's going the opposite direction. We want a downtown where you never see or hear our outdoor friends. Please. That's their approach.
I just wonder, like the faith communities, the non-faith organizations, the nonprofits that are out there that are just wanting to involve themselves in service work. I just wonder, are they creating stability? Are they creating environments of hospitality? And then why? Like, why is it? Because honestly, when you see that many homeless people out on the street, you know the community is not taking care of their people. Now you're saying though, even though they're not visible, we're still not taking care of our people. So, but that's just a visible reminder that they're not taking care of their people. And I think that it does have to do with maybe community responsibility as well.
It also has to do with that next step. Okay, we created 4 places where you can pitch your tent. Are we doing anything else besides that?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to look at dollars for dollars, shut down those congregate shelters that people don't want to use and say, okay, your camp is clean, it's out of the way, we don't have any crime reports, keep doing that. And is there something else you need? And what would it take to get you into housing? That's a better interim step where they get to camp on their own terms and figure out the next step than it is to put them in a tiny home and then not provide services because you just spent all your money.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for that as the solution. I'm just saying dollar for dollar, let people camp with their camping if they're not causing problems, and let's go from there. Let's go forward from there.
I have appreciated when we're swinging hammers together and doing other things together that, you know, we have a shared understanding of the difficulty of helping others. And you've been honest with me, I've been honest with you, and you know, we waddle around in our cynical sewage sometimes, and I appreciate that because it's very human, and staying human in the work I think is important, and finding safe you know, people that we can like get into that, I guess, hardened space, you know, of like, this is difficult and this is hard. I want to know though, and please don't give me, I don't want this. I don't want a typical Christianese answer of, you know, I just get in my yoga pose and I try to meditate and pray or something like that. What actually restores you? Like when you get in this work, what is restoring you? And I know that I probably could guess, I'm having difficulty finding that sometimes, but what actually restores you in this work?
My spiritual director is after me for this all the time. I'm appallingly bad at balance.
Yeah.
I have 2 practices that I recognize the benefit of. One is I keep, there's actually a physical folder, but there's also a digital one. I keep these messages that people bring back to me. Hey, when you did this, that really helped. I heap those. And on a bad day, I go back and read them. The other thing I have recognized, my spiritual director has been big on this, is the thing that refuels me the fastest is to get out into nature. Yeah. So I need to prioritize that. Last October, I went on a 10-day camping trip. It only cost me 3 days downtown because of how I maneuvered it, but I just headed out to Eastern Oregon for 10 days, and I needed it. I really needed it.
Eastern Oregon?
I'm from Bend. Eastern Oregon is home.
Okay.
Sagebrush and juniper. I mean,
Somebody.
to be honest with you folks, those of us who grew up on the dry side call this the Willamette Valley.
Yeah, totally. So I think that finding when you're in the work and when I'm in the work, you know, it's finding places of restoration and habits that restore us and things are important. And I think that we assume that you're doing it, but yet, you know, I could imagine if you're anything like me, probably struggle alongside as well with that.
I'm supposed to go on a spiritual retreat every January. I usually just get a yurt at a campground. I haven't done that this year.
Yeah.
In part because I'm at a retreat next month, but I'm speaking at that retreat, so it's not a retreat for me.
Yeah.
I do need to figure out that balance point.
What conversation do you think we are avoiding right now?
Probably, what do I feel called to do? If you read the Bible, if you read the history of people, every time someone gets a calling, it's always over their head, it's always scary, it's always something they can't do on their own. That's the nature of calling. So if we hear that and recoil and step back, that's avoidance.
Yeah.
So are we having a conversation about, hey, I really feel called to do this scary thing. What do you think? What do you think?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and being with us. We're going to move into our Q&A section. So Shreya, why don't you come up, and we can end our online community now because this is going to be difficult to try to do Q&A with the online community. So let's